Hi, it's Doug Crawford here again at the Santa Barbara Harbor and the Jewel of the Pacific, the Yacht Club, here with the President Emeritus of the Santa Barbara Navy League, Connie Lose. Welcome, Connie. Glad to have you here. And who's this here on your lap?
Oh, well, we also have today joining us Admiral Lose, who's our mascot. And he really is a very good recruiter, actually.
Well, and recruiting it is. We'll talk a little bit about that and why that's important. But I'd just like to refresh everyone's memory about basically the president of the Santa Barbara Navy League. Connie was 7 years as leader. Our membership grew from 35 to over 1,500 people. We adopted the USS Ronald Reagan. We adopted the U.S. Coast Guard Blackfin. We adopted the U.S. Coast Guard MSD unit. We got the Sea Cadets going for the Santa Barbara Sea Cadets. We have not only all of that going on here, but Connie is also a national director on the Navy League, and Connie has earned just about every medal you can get by participating as a volunteer in this organization. Secretary Gordon England presented her with the United States Navy Service Medal, Distinguished Service Medal, and Meritorious Service Medal, and also received the same award from the U.S. Coast Guard, from the Commandant of the Coast Guard. And Connie, you have been a moving force in the development of the Navy League here in Santa Barbara and on a national basis, and would, after all that, love to say welcome back, but the fact is you're around here a lot, and what is it that you've been doing recently that we might be able to talk about?
Well, gosh, Doug, you know, the Santa Barbara Navy League continues, no matter where you are on a national scale, to be a leader among the best of Navy League councils in the country. And although my affiliation obviously is here with the Santa Barbara Navy League, but I do a great deal of work with the Norfolk Hampton Roads Navy League there in Virginia, and am normally up in Washington, D.C. once a month. But I can tell you the name and the prominence of Santa Barbara Navy League is carried on a national scale, and don't think for a minute. They don't know who we are. They do.
Well, they know who we are, and they gave you the Distinguished Navy Leaguer of the Year Service Award most recently as well, and that's a national recognition that not very many people get in a lifetime. Congratulations for that.
And that one was a real shock, Doug, because you were there when I received it. So, you know, it's kind of enough with the rewards, but the Santa Barbara Navy League continues even on a Pentagon level or a DC level or the Hampton Roads area level. Wherever Connie Lose and the Santa Barbara Navy League name goes, we're highly regarded, well respected. It gives us an incredible entree, and I think we'll be able to do a lot more good things for the Santa Barbara Navy League and the membership. As a matter of fact, I think you know that recently I went on the United States ship Mercy.
The Mercy, yes.
And now the Santa Barbara Navy League has been invited to do the same thing, and it's quite a unique experience, and certainly Santa Barbara Navy League has done many unique experiences.
Well, thanks to the introduction that you made, I know you took the tour and met the captain of that, and as a result of that, we are going to be having a tour here in June. And people are going to be leaving here from Santa Barbara. We're going to be making a show out of that. But the wonders of that, I think there's only 2 of them in the world. But after the tremendous Indonesian tsunami, they helped 66,000 people.
You know, I think one thing you really need to extend to the membership on that visit to like you said, there's only 2 of these ships, you know, in the world connected with our Navy here in the United States. But the incredible deeds they do. They were there for Katrina when that hit. They were there, you know, like you said, when they had the other natural disaster with the tsunami. And, I mean, just the recognition that brings to the United States of America and our support and how we come to the aid of other countries and other people. It's wonderful. And they'll really thoroughly enjoy that tour.
Well, another thing that's dear and close to both of our hearts and our efforts, of course, is the Navy League Hiring Center. And Connie has been head of strategic development for that project nationally. And it is, of course, one of the most important initiatives that I feel that the Navy League can engage in, because there are 40,000 men and women of the sea services that are being downsized. That's over 110,000 people a year. And the goal is to get every one of them a job before they get out. How's that going?
Well, you know, I'd like to say since I left Santa Barbara, or Karen took over as president, that I've been really pretty quiet. But like you said, this project that we took on with the Navy League Hiring Center really promotes a number of things. It promotes the Navy League and our membership. It supports the men and women in transition as they retire or leave the military, and it's just an incredible program. And actually, it's reached a national acclaim now, where the candidates come up to us at job fairs, and Flash is a really good worker at the job fairs. He just attracts more candidates and retiring military men and women than you can shake a stick at. But it's a highly regarded program. People line up to talk to us about it, so that we're doing our job again, Doug.
Well, good.
And thanks to you for bringing that to the table.
Well, it was a real pleasure. I think lots of good ideas, but how do you put action to those ideas? And Connie, you're out in front of those men and women as they're transitioning in multiple places around the country. You're talking to all of the Navy League corporate members and everybody that's interested in hiring the best and brightest, and that is the men and women who have worn our uniforms. So the idea is, let's tell them you can go to NavyLeague.info. on the website, www.navyleague.info. If you want to hire our nation's finest sons and daughters, you can post your jobs there and profile them to get matched. And if you're transitioning from the Sea Service or a family member and know somebody that's looking for a job, you go there and it's absolutely free for you.
So we're still doing great things, and we'll continue to do so, and we just really, really encourage our membership to stay engaged, bring on more new members, and keep rocking and rolling, because you've got the best name there is out there, and you should be proud of it.
Well, thanks very much. That's because of your legacy to doing that, and we have, of course, now gotten you to continue working with us very, very closely on a number of issues that you think are important. Our membership is benefiting still, even though you're President Emeritus. You're amazing in what you're able to do and get done at a national level and here in Santa Barbara. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us, and Flash, thanks everybody too, and it encourages you to get your dog to join the Navy League as well.
Which you can do at SantaBarbaraNavyLeague.org. Please come and join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mike Bonsignore. I'm the retired Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Honeywell, but my real claim to fame in the world is that I spent 12 years in the United States Navy, and my proudest years of my life. I went to the Naval Academy and spent 4 years at sea on destroyers, which is something I'd wanted to do since I was a child, and then went ashore in Mexico on a cultural exchange tour. And that coincided with the arrival of the Mexican Olympic Games in 1968. And the Mexican government had decided they were going to swim the Olympic torch ashore in Veracruz Harbor, and there was great concern that one of the swimmers might be eaten by a shark. Well, at the time I was teaching scuba diving at the Mexican Naval Academy, and we were contacted by the Mexican Olympic Committee, and they asked if we would provide an underwater escort to the Olympic swimmers who got off the ship that brought the Olympic flame into Veracruz Harbor and swam it about 400 yards into the beach. So I had an opportunity with two of my associates to swim under the Olympic flame in 1968, from the time it was handed down to the first swimmer until it was passed off to the first runner on its way to Mexico City. And one of the great and unique opportunities you have a chance in your life once in a while, and it all came as a result of my association with the Navy.
Hello, I'm Doug Crawford with the Board of Directors of the Navy League of the United States in Santa Barbara, California, and we're here today on a busy Friday at the harbor in Santa Barbara, and beautiful day, and very, very pleased to have Captain Ed Zeiler from the Santa Barbara Police Department here with us. And Captain Ed Zeiler is not only an advocate for youth programs within the police department, but also within the Navy League in Santa Barbara. So Ed, if you would, what is it that motivates you to want to volunteer, and what do you think the youth can benefit from both PAL and the Navy League?
Well, I've been involved with youth programs with the police department for about the last 5 or 6 years. The genesis of it really was in enforcement mode on a gang violence suppression grant that we had 10 or 12 years ago, and because of collaborations within that grant, started to meet some of the people in Santa Barbara that provide services for kids programs, at-risk kids that can't afford to participate in programs that we take for granted for a lot of our kids here in Santa Barbara. So it kind of went from an enforcement into getting to know some of the nonprofits in town and what they do with children, the school district, and it's kind of blossomed into working with the Police Activities League, which provides services for about 1,200 at-risk kids throughout the year through the Santa Barbara Police Department. And that in turn, one of the persons involved with that Police Activities League was on the Santa Barbara Navy League board, and she brought me on board about a year ago, and it's just blossomed and now be involved with the programs for the youth with the Sea Cadets with the Navy League here in Santa Barbara.
Well, Ed Zeiler's coming on board at the Navy League has indeed contributed not only a perspective of youth programs and at-risk, but also understanding what it takes to help support and build the first Navy League unit in Santa Barbara called AirPac. And Ed, tell me what some of the activities of the Sea Cadets are and how people might consider getting involved.
Well, the Sea Cadet program has been around for many years. It has just started here in Santa Barbara just in the last year or two. It's kind of been a real help here in Santa Barbara. We did have a fairly active ROTC program at the high school some years ago that actually folded their doors about a year and a half or a year ago. And since that time, we've tried to steer our junior high to high school age children that are involved in the PAL program toward the Sea Cadet program, which has some, it's a good perspective on what the military does. It's supportive of the Navy League. It gets them involved in teamwork and disciplinary, and they actually go to a boot camp and learn a lot of military skills, and it builds them up for life skills for later on in life. It also gives them the opportunity to be available for or can apply for scholarships. If they decide to go in the military, they can actually get started at a higher rank. They have a lot of team competition every month. And finally, they had the flagship competition down in Port Hueneme last weekend, where there's about 265 Sea Cadets who are involved in competing with fire drills, inspections, marching, tying knots, and it's a real good teamwork, and provides them with skills that they can use later on in life.
Well, that's no greater calling can we have than to have somebody like the captain from the Santa Barbara Police Department representing both at-risk children and kids, and being able to help those who are interested in some sort of service to their country perhaps, but in the meantime just learning what it means to contribute and to learn what it means to be a Sea Cadet. I know that one of the first graduates became, I believe, a full scholarship ride to the Maritime Academy, Kelly Masters Melton, just last summer. So any other advice that you might be able to provide to them? We can provide the information about how to get in touch with the Santa Barbara Navy League on sbnl.org and look up Sea Cadets.
And if anybody would like to be involved in the Santa Barbara Police Activities League after-school programs, Campership Alliance during the summer, they can contact myself or the coordinator, Brian Kerr, at our office number is 962-5560.
Well, we thank you very much, Ed, for coming down.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it very much. Hello, I'm Doug Crawford with the Board of Directors of the Navy League of the United States in Santa Barbara, California, and I'm honored to be here at the Jewel of the Pacific, the Santa Barbara Yacht Club, with Dr. Eric Boehm, a longtime Navy League member and an American and a business entrepreneur here in Santa Barbara. Welcome, Eric, and thank you for joining us.
Nice to be talking to you, Doug.
Well, one of the things that we want to do on this show is to provide service stories, stories of what others have done that have helped us earn our freedoms, and you certainly have done just that, and Eric would be interested in hearing a little bit about what service meant to you during World War II and what you did.
Well, I have to admit, since this is for the Navy League, the first thing I did within 2 days after Pearl Harbor, I was stationed at that time, or rather studying at that time, at the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy in Medford, Mass. I went down to the Navy Yard in order to enlist within 2 or 3 days after Germany declared war on us. Why? Because I was native of Germany, or escaped, well, if you call it that, who had emigrated from Germany. And I was interested in the Navy officer program, and I felt at the time that I was turned down, not because I was not qualified, but because I was a native of Germany, and it hurt. And then to make up for that, I want to do something patriotic. I joined the auxiliary police. At that time, as a graduate student, you needed every hour you could possibly use, and joining the auxiliary police wasn't exactly the best use of my time, but I do remember the feeling of comfort and shall we say patriotism that I felt at the time when I guarded the reservoir as an auxiliary policeman in order to make sure that the Germans weren't going to poison our wells or poison our reservoirs. I mean, our patriotism was so everybody, I was not exceptional in that regard, was so deeply committed that we sought a way by which we could save our country and do something for our country. And it was not until 6 months later that I actually got in the service.
Well, a time all Americans felt that they were engaged in a war and understood what it meant when our nation was at war to provide service. Tell us what you did when you actually did go back over to Germany.
I was actually enlisted and went in the Army Air Corps. This was something you didn't choose at that time. The Army Air Corps was a part of the Army. I was going to be an engine mechanic and still have a certificate I was fifth in my class of 50, and I'm still proud of the fact that I was able to do a good enough job on the engines in Flint, Michigan. General Motors officers and General Motors persons did that. But it took me a while before I eventually ended up as an Air Force intelligence officer. Army Air Corps went through officer candidate training in Miami Beach, and then went through intelligence school in Harrisburg, and ended up eventually in England after I'd had training as an interrogation officer. Ended up in England. One of the basic rules that we had at that time, that if you really want to be successful, you have to convert you sometimes refer to them as schnooks, as your source. You have to convert the prisoner to make that prisoner believe that by spilling the beans, they are rendering a service to their country. And this conversion process was not easy, but I was considered to be an extraordinarily successful interrogation officer by virtue of the fact that I practiced what everybody preached. Those who do not know their history are condemned to relive it.
And to the antithesis of that, however, is what we do learn and what we are able to apply can help us our entire lifetime.
True.
I understand now that you have successfully founded a company in Santa Barbara called ABC Clio, which your son continues to operate very successfully here, one of the finest companies to work for, I'm told by reports.
And I would agree with that.
And now in your eighth or ninth decade, I guess, you're starting another company called the Boehm Group. And the Boehm Group has to do with biographical and corporate history information. And can you tell me why you think it's important at 87 years old to be founding a new company to do this?
For one thing, I feel that the more biographing, the more reviewing of one's life one does, the more one learns, and the more you can pass on to future generations. To my mind, it's almost a necessity that you do biographing as part of your life. It's also very tremendously gratifying. The joy of doing it, the joy of reminiscing.
Well, thank you, Eric, for that insight. The reason that we do Santa Barbara Navy League TV is to help educate the public and our legislatures regarding the needs of the men and women of the sea services, and just as importantly, the benefits for young people to be able to have had the opportunity to serve and to be able to have had the experiences that you have that have lasted a lifetime. You've been a wonderful citizen in this community, and actually the reason that I'm in the Navy League is because of Eric Boehm's invitation to take his place to go aboard the USS Abraham Lincoln in 1999, and it was an experience that changed my life, and I'm very appreciative of that, both for what you do in the community as well as how you support our Navy League, and we'd be very, very pleased to have you back at some point in the future with some other service stories.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for identifying your part of your life with the Navy League. Very necessary, and it's a joy to be talking to you.
It's an honor. Thank you.
Yep.
We're here aboard the USS Los Angeles attack submarine in San Pedro, California. The Santa Barbara Navy League is here, and we are being hosted by Captain Burian, who's going to be our tour guide today. So Santa Barbara, enjoy.
This is the control room. This is where we fight the ship from. When we call away battle stations, everyone rushes into this space, the designated people. My station is pretty much right here on the con. The screens that you see around you cover all the ship parameters. This is a navigation screen, but we also have an internal video LAN so that we can call up a number of different screens. I have a display in my stateroom, as does the XO. There's one in the wardroom and the crew's mess. So I can look at different displays for navigation, sonar, fire control, you name it. And I can also look out the periscope. I can see what the officer of the deck is seeing at the periscope through the video camera in my stateroom by selecting the field of view. So he turns it around and he calls me, hey, I have a contact on this bearing, it's this close. I'll tell him, okay, put the camera on it. I can look at it, you know, if I'm eating lunch or I'm in my stateroom or, you know, it's late, and I can say, okay, roger, understand. We have sonar displays, fire control. Up here we have more geographic displays and an acoustic display, which are secured because they're classified. And here you have the control panel. And remember I talked to you about the two young sailors who drive the ship. They sit in the two left and right seats, port and starboard. We call this the inboard or fairwater plane station. Outboard is the stern plainsman. And between them, a little bit aft, is the diving officer. The two plainsmen are typically some of the youngest guys we have on board. They are probably 18, 19, 20 years old, something like that. Been on board maybe about a year, maybe a little bit less. And then behind them sits a chief petty officer or a junior officer. It's a little bit more experience. And then you've got a chief of the watch in the corner, and all those things over there, they all mean something to me, but it'd take a little while to explain it all. But basically he controls water, ballasting conditions, hydraulics, air, ventilation, hull openings, hydraulic pressure, ship's alarms, control panel, communications. That's all controlled and monitored by the chief of the watch, and he makes reports to the diving officer and in turn to the officer of the deck, who stands his watch up here in various places of the control room. So these are our two periscopes. This one is we call the #1 periscope. Not much improved upon since the World War II Run Silent Run Deep times. Essentially a light box. Doesn't have any electronics on it, but some RDF capability. And this is our #2 periscope, port side, and it has quite a few more enhancements. It has a GPS antenna on the top, so we can raise the scope. It's got a little GPS bulb, and within about a minute or so we have a GPS fix on board, raising the scope. It has a video camera, still camera, both digital, built into the mast. It has low light TV, infrared, and ESM capability, so we can listen for radars, that type of thing.
Do you transmit that real time to another source?
Well,
if you're looking at something,
yeah.
Do you communicate that to a party beyond the sub itself?
Yes, we have a capability to take video stills and digital imagery and capture that and send it via a system called UITS, Harris Universal Image Transfer System. That goes off the ship, transmit it off, and we can take pictures and send them to the president if need be, with pretty good fidelity and pretty reasonable bandwidth. The submarine force has invested a lot of money in high bandwidth communications, and I think I mentioned before I can chat with the Commodore and wherever I am in the world, provided we're in a condition where we can transmit. We can send emails back and forth. So we have relatively new. 5, 10 years. Yes, 5 years, and maybe even less than that. Yeah, about 5 years. That's about right. Yeah. New capability, and we can also surf the internet. We can do that. We have a channel through our encrypted communications, so we can actually get on AOL while we're at sea. And obviously we have to stay up for a while to do that, but if we want to, that we have that capability, which is pretty nice. So families can send emails back and forth to each other, and we can communicate. On the tactical side, the submarine force has a submarine command course, which is a very intensive 3-month course, which is tactics, navigation, personnel, and all the other things that it takes in addition to the reactor to run a ship. So I've been in the Navy 17.5 years. I'm 39. I'm still going to school. It doesn't seem to stop, but that's a good thing. It keeps it fresh, and I encourage my guys. We do career review boards with all of our sailors. We have the whole chain of command, the chief of the boat, the XO, their individual divisional chain of command, and we bring them in, sit them down, and from 6 months of being on board, we say, what's your plan in the Navy? What are you going to do? Where are you going to be 5 years from now? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to become a chief? Do you want to become an officer? So we attempt to plant that seed early.
The goals of the Navy League are to educate our nation and our nation's leaders regarding the needs of our maritime nation and our sea services. Number one. Number two, to support the men and women of the sea services. Number three, to support their family. And number four, to develop youth programs so that those people that may want to serve learn about that.
Sure.
One of the greatest honors that the Navy League has had recently has been to be able to help people as they transition in a downsizing Navy, something most people don't realize.
Yeah.
And so we've developed the Navy League Hiring Center. And this we would ask you to be able to show to your command, show to your
Thank
men.
you for that. Yeah.
And it's navyleague.info, and we've got over 6,000 jobs on that right now, and about 6,000 Sea Service member profiles. So it's one of the first places as they go through a TAP center that they are asked to go online to complete their profile to automatically get matched to jobs. So navyleague.info, and we'd very much appreciate
I will absolutely pass that on to the crew.
and we appreciate the fact that you said the one thing that you said is that you make sure that they're properly prepared to launch as they go.
Yeah, well, I take it pretty personally because, you know, a guy signs up and signs a contract with expectations that the Navy's going to take care of him, and you know, that's our charter as well. You know, we're responsible for these guys, and frankly, a lot of them, you know, come from family backgrounds that are less than ideal, and they find a home here. You know, they make brothers and uncles and dads, and they become men.
Yeah, and when they come out, one of the things that, especially in a very tight recruiting environment as we have right now, we're going to have actually 8 million shortages of professionals, and there is no more highly sought candidate for these positions now than our military people when they come out. They come out drug-free or relatively. They have been tested. They understand what a learning is. They work. They don't know what an 8-hour workday is.
We'd like to know.
The idea that they have all the qualifications of being great contributors, individual contributors in the private sector, is because of the training that they get while they're under your command.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thanks. And we work very hard to make sure that they get a good start.
Thank you. We've also working on some training programs, just so you know that that we will be able to either have not only internet distribution but satellite distribution, encrypted and otherwise for real-time training and certification while they're in. So
excellent.
Anything else? Anything you need from the Navy League, you just need to let us know.
Well, I'm going to get my guys connected for sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
The Los Angeles Lakers welcome the crew of the USF Los Angeles to tonight's game.